Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes with the guys. If you hear any noise, it's just me and these crazy, wild and crazy boys. Hello, Cameron. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hello, Sybil. Hello, Damon. Hello, Med.
Hey, hey.
And are you sure you're okay, Cameron?
Oh, it has
Okay. All
been.
right. Cool. Damon, welcome back. How you doing?
Doing great. Coming to you live from Yonkers, New York at the moment.
You
Uh,
you are a man without a home. You are always coming from someplace different.
yeah, whenever you don't see my flag, you know I'm on the road.
Right, right,
All right.
exactly. And should we go to him now or should we just wait?
I think he's
I
holding
get
on all right. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he is
holding
holding
on
on.
strong. Yeah.
Keep holding on.
Oh,
Keep holding on. Let's see
yeah.
how long we can go with this.
Following the deltoids, the trapezius. Yes.
Yeah, I think he's holding up the show.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Starting to wane.
For those of you who are listening, we're just looking at Med, who is holding up his arms as if he is Atlas holding up the world, and we just want to see how long he can go
either
with a
Atlas,
smile on his
Luckily.
face. And
he's,
even
he's,
though,
he's either Atlas or that dude next to Jesus on the cross.
he's, he's losing a little bit of the smile. Okay,
Yeah, not bad.
Med
Minute and a
Gorgon, how
half.
are you?
I'm doing great, Sybil. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I got the fan blowing in my face. Oh, God, that was tough. Woo! We here, though. We
Yeah,
here.
we here. We
Yeah.
are here. Yeah. Um,
Oh, yeah. Sore.
I think the triple digits have left the Chicagoland area,
Oof.
correct, Cameron
Yeah.
and Damon? Damon, I don't know how things are in Yonkers.
Uh, Not bad. It's a little overcast. High 70s right now, so it's pretty decent.
Okay, sounds like Chicago, no, Cam?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
about
I was
right.
home this morning. I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh, hey, you
Wow,
just left.
wow.
Yeah.
Talk about your one night stands. How is the city winery?
Oh, the City Winery was phenomenal. It was a great closeout for the summer series. I think next year I'll do 4 months and go into September because people were kind of asking about it. And now I'm off to the other city wineries, St. Louis on September 7th, and then Nashville on September 8th.
All right.
Excellent,
Cool.
excellent. All right, and Med, what's new with you? Is school started?
Um, huh?
School
Yeah.
has started, right?
School started like this first day of August. We deep
Okay,
in it
okay,
right now.
okay.
We
We're
deep in it
deep.
right now. Invest Fest was this weekend down here in Atlanta. We got that exclusive from Steve Harvey that Marjorie is fine, he's fine, everybody's fine. I was in the audience for that. I just said thank you, goodness. We just came off of Tyler Perry buying BET, and everybody jumped on the next one like, oh my God! I'm like, wow, we just went through this, people. Can we
Right.
pick a
Yeah.
source? If
Mhm.
TMZ
And
ain't got it, guess what? It probably ain't true. But
and
also
exactly right. Yeah.
and some cool things going on there with InvestFest. Got to speak with some people. Joy Taylor from Fox Sports. I ran into her and had a conversation with her. My man Ash Cash. Met this young lady who runs who has a book that helps teach financial literacy to kids from like 6 to
Oh, I
11.
love
Uh,
those. Yeah.
Called Mahogany and Friends.
Hmm.
An author. So like she had a whole nice little setup. I spoke to her and a bunch of other like entrepreneurs that it was really good getting in touch with it and talking to.
Let's do something with that, Med. I love the idea of children learning financial literacy as young as they possibly are able to, as young as we can introduce them
I
to
will
that.
reach back out to her. I'll definitely reach back out to her and invite her on.
Okay, cool.
Like
Absolutely.
the books, like when she described the books, it was very. I was like, we're teaching them what? Yeah,
Right.
Mahogany goes to Wall Street.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
And
Wow.
and, and
Yeah.
Mahogany living on the south side of Chicago needs to know about that.
Needs to know about it, right? And I think something else. Steve Harvey interviewed Robert Smith. Well, I
Oh
think it was
yeah.
the richest black man
Man
in the
on the
world.
planet. Mhm.
Right. And I appreciated the conversation because he asked him just, how did he get into investing? How did he get into all this? He's like, I went to the bank to do one thing. I was trying to get, another $10,000, $20,000. And then I'm talking to the people and like, I can make millions of dollars more. And I had no clue. And they're not teaching us this,
right.
Where I'm from. Like no one's teaching us this. And so if we're not teaching ourselves this or learning it ourselves, where we're going to be. We're always going to be left behind. So that was a great I just enjoyed that conversation between Steve Harvey and Robert Smith at InvestFest this weekend. And there was a lot of nuggets that he dropped during that conversation. And with Steve, the cool thing about Steve is he keeps it real basic. Like his questions ain't gonna go over your head. He's like, so when do you go to the bank and ask for a loan? Like you're asking like the richest black man in the world. So how do you get a loan? And I'm just like, man, I want to hear what he says about this. How does he break it down from his rich self?
And with that in mind, I'm also going to ask people to take a look at our newsletter as I make that turn there to the What You Need to Know newsletter and our the CPA to the Stars column. Katrina Kraft talks about the number of rejections that people are getting when they go to the bank for a loan. That is in the What You Need to Know newsletter. So that is one of the many interesting stories. Let's start with Khameron. We normally start with you. However, the focus of your story is also going to be in our interview section. So we will save that for the interview section. Just give people a little bit of a taste as we talk about education and teachers.
Oh yeah. So the first few weeks of school have came and went for some, and the Washington Post has collated all of these statistics about staffing shortages and such surrounding our education system, and we've also been discussing just like the dearth of like Black male teachers across the nation, and a dear friend of mine who is at the forefront of that. Mr. Daniel Jackson will speak to his experience as a teacher, what makes and inspires an educator, and why Black men are needed in the field, and how he's innovating education as we speak.
We can't talk about it enough. Educating our children and educating our future, like I was talking about with financial literacy as well, but in all subjects, and especially in our classrooms where so much is talked about what they're not getting. They're not getting the pay that they deserve. They're not getting the supplies they need. They're not getting the support from home, and they're asked to spend more time on the job. And not being compensated for it, or the respect, as I said, with support, but the respect from parents and from administrators. So it's really incumbent upon us to talk about this, and especially not only Black teachers, but Black male teachers in our classrooms. I never had a Black male teacher when I was growing up.
And I think it's important because there are so many homes that don't have strong father figures in our communities. Not to say that there are not a lot of involved fathers, but in the classroom, to have a role model and a mentor in the classroom. Some of those students, that would be the only contact that they have like that.
That's right.
Yeah, yep, that's right. Sure.
Absolutely necessary. So I can't wait to talk to the teacher, young teacher Daniel, and talk about this in a little bit more time. What You Need to Know newsletter has spent a couple of days talking about the horrors of what happened in Jacksonville, another racist mass shooting. A young white man travels outside of his community and finds a Black community where he intends to inflict harm on Black people. That was his intention. He left a number of letters or pieces of information to his family, to the media, and to the law enforcement community about what his intention was. And he succeeded by all counts, not to the extent of what happened in Buffalo, in which 10 people were killed, 3 others were injured. But he did do enough damage to our community and put, I don't know. I was going to say, and put the governor of Florida on notice about what's going on in the state. I'm not sure that this did it. And I'm not saying that anything has to be done of a greater number or more violence in order
right.
to make the governor understand what's going on. But this was a horrific situation that happened Saturday afternoon, just as the March on Washington was in the midst of speeches being made about how this is not a commemoration, the 60th anniversary, but it was a continuation of the fight for jobs, for freedom, for racial equality. And this shows that we're still not there. They demonstrated that in their speeches as well. And Robert Smith was one of those people, man, who spoke and talked about financial literacy and how he was able to bring in the amount of money that he did, the millions of dollars, in order to pay off the debts of young men at Morehouse, and how it has paid in dividends in the years since he has done that. But to get back to Jacksonville, another horrific situation in which Black people are always having to have our heads on swivel, and in the state where woke goes to die, as the governor has called it, we have to stay woke, because social media and the dark websites are thriving with members who talk about their hatred of Black people, their hatred of Asian people, of Hispanic people, of gay people. And this is a prime example of a young man who was indoctrinated, and not a scumbag, as the governor called him, but as a minister in the group at the vigil said, he was not a scumbag, he was a racist. And this is, as President Biden said, this is something we have to deal with every day.
Yeah. I've been watching the debate stage just like a lot recently, and I've heard the Republicans blame liberals for exacerbating racism. I've heard liberals blame conservatives for exacerbating racism. You know, Black people, make no mistake, racism is baked into the fabric of this country. It predates the two-party system.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that they politicize it. It's not like you said, Karen. This is not a Democrat Republican thing. Do I understand that most of the people that are the white supremacists have a extreme right leaning mentality? Right. I understand that, but this is not a political thing. This is a human thing. At the end of the day, for me, this is a human thing, and it's sad that in the state of Florida, this story probably can't be talked about in schools, because we don't want to make anybody upset.
It is being exacerbated by the right wing, and it's also not being condemned. And that's just as bad as condoning it, when you don't condemn these acts of violence in a way that says racism is at the key of it. So, racism is never going anywhere, from my opinion, just on a surface level.
Right.
We have to do something about the violent aspect of this right wing crazy party that's over there doing what they do.
Thoughts and prayers are not going to do it.
Oh yeah.
No, it's going to take some
Vivek has said that a white supremacist is like a unicorn. Vivek said a white supremacist is like finding a unicorn. Well, there's your unicorn, Vivek, right there. It's like we saw one a couple. Like these unicorns are popping up on an extreme
on a
basis.
Regular,
so
yeah.
I don't know how rare a unicorn is, but this can't be
It's not, and unicorns are more rare than ignorant politicians who don't know whereof they speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've heard
I'm sorry, go ahead, Cam.
I was going to say, we've heard former President Obama just speak toward how disconnected politicians are from the populace, so disconnected about the problems that we face on the day-to-day. And then just to see all the finger pointing, before the 2024 election, no wonder people are so checked out of this whole of the whole democratic process. And in that type of environment, that's where hate and apathy tend to thrive.
And Democratic with small d has nothing to do
Right.
with the parties.
Correct.
Right.
But the process that many are fighting to maintain and to in a sense to resurrect, because the democratic process is on its way to being buried if the current Republican Party has anything to say about it.
And
Go ahead,
some of
Damon.
the Republicans with small d are probably the ones that's committing these crimes.
Probably.
God, no.
Definitely have that
Okay.
study commissioned.
So what I was trying to say, what I was going to say was,
Let's just let that breathe for a second, man.
right.
Yeah, because I didn't get off my thoughts and chairs clearly, but I got the small d off.
Very well. Okay.
Yes, man. You were going to say.
I was we're talking about the democratic process, and it's just crazy to me that the two leaders in Biden and Trump are both like if you look at the polls and you look at nobody wants either one of them. Right. It's like nobody wants either one of them, but the democratic process got them leading, which makes absolutely no sense to me, and it makes you question the whole process.
Or just bad polling.
I would wager that it is like polling on like a mass media side, because I've never gotten called to poll for anything.
I've gotten polls, Cam, and I get a lot of calls. I don't answer them, but I've gotten a lot of calls.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And the other part is we need campaign reform as far as the money goes, because it's not an even playing field for candidates that have a voice, that have a platform, that have ideas that we might support, but they can't get their message out because you have to have millions and millions of dollars to run a campaign in this so-called democratic process. And that's a big issue that's not going away as well, because the lobbyists are trying to keep their hands in the pockets of the politicians. But that would help, I would think.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think a lot of these politicians use social media correctly. I mean, like to the point where they will be on there as an extremist almost of their views, but to explain the process, because Sybil, I got my guy, Mr. Jackson out there in North Carolina. That's my dude, and every Monday he put the video out explaining the process that's going on in Congress, and he's gotten a lot of fans. He's a Democrat, but he's gotten a lot of fans on the Republican side that be like, yo, I would vote for this guy right here. And so I'm looking at him and watching him how he uses social media, and I'm just like, why isn't everybody else doing it this way? Because he really is creating an upswell for him.
And the people that are using it incorrectly are those that are being paid to do it, and so they're convincing their clients that they're doing their job. We do have to move along because we do have a special guest. I do want to remind people to check out other elements of the newsletter. Our CPA to the Stars, Katrina Kraft, as I mentioned earlier, has a column on rejections of loan applications by the banks. Please, please, please check that out. And other things in the newsletter include the Little No Black History Fact, as well as HBCU Corner. And HBCUs were mentioned in the weekend mass murder because one, if not the oldest HBCU in the state of Florida, Edward Waters University, was the stopping point for the shooter in the Dollar General store. Mass murder. And were it not for a very observant and aware security member of the security team, the reaction time by the police may have been a little less quick as it did happen, as it did occur. So please take a look at those things. And you can subscribe to the What You Need to Know newsletter by going to SybilWilkes.com. Give us your name and your email address, and we'll have it in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. All right, Khameron, it's time to ask the question, what's really going on? And to that end, would you please introduce your guest, the award-winning teacher, Daniel Jackson?
Oh, I am so excited to introduce Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated Director of Education of the Chi Sigma chapter, proud Arthur Dixon Elementary School Teacher Department Chair and Culture and Climate Chair, the award-winning Daniel Jackson. Your reputation precedes you, sir. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Cam, for the introduction.
Hello, sir.
Thank you, Sybil. Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you all for having me on your show today.
Daniel, also thank you for just, cross posting and promoting the show. A lot of our mutual friends hit me up after you shared it and you're like, oh, you got Daniel on the show. And I'm like, yeah, you all should hop on in. So shout out to everybody who's joining us this evening to talk about this very pertinent issue of the state of the Black education system. So Daniel, I consider you an expert, not only because of your master's in education, but also just your approach to educating our young people. Can you just tell us for a moment what inspired you to become an educator?
Well, I think there's many things that inspired me. First of all, I would say that I'm appreciative for having great teachers throughout my life. My teachers, they were a big asset in my life. They encouraged me to become also a teacher. They encouraged me to do well in life and not just in school. And so as I was thinking about doing well in life, I had to think about what does my further career look like? I love teaching. However, there are great opportunities in this world where we are not just limited to one group of people. And that is one thing I learned from my educators, fellow educators, but also my teachers in the classroom. So my teachers would be a great inspiration, especially in middle school. There was a story they were asking about last week at our trainings, saying, what is your reading journey? And some people, a lot of my colleagues said their reading journey started in preschool and things like that. Now, of course, I enjoyed my early childhood, but my reading journey happened more in my middle school career, where the books looked like me, where the characters in the story were. I resonated with those types of situations, and that's what I enjoyed about middle school. Now, I've had predominantly Black teachers my entire life, and that was another thing that I enjoyed. From preschool to elementary, I had predominantly Black educators, and that was something I saw in my classrooms on a daily basis. Administration, everyone in the building. Even now, currently I work at a predominantly Black school, but also predominantly Black staff, where we are molding our young thinkers in this world, especially in our Chicago community.
And so, I wanted to.
No, go ahead, Cameron. I want to make a personal observation. Go ahead, Cam.
I wanted to just expound upon that education has become just quite partisan as of late. And you and I are lucky to exist in the Chicago education system where we don't have to worry about our history or our contributions to this country as Black people being challenged. How do you as a Black man inspire educators in other cities, in other states where they're going to have to overcome that obstacle of almost cultural appreciation?
Well, I'm quite disappointed that in many states they are shutting down the education system. You are preventing people from teaching about their cultures and their language. I'm quite disappointed that a government can say such things. In our world today, it is important that we know who we are and whose we are. And at my school, we value our Black learners. We value our Black students. We teach them about their culture before slavery. We know that the African diaspora is not a place of just enslavement and poverty. We know that they're from kings and queens. We know that they were farmers and builders. We know that we built this country. And so we always value that and teach our children that, because we want them to know that their past is important. I even just mentioned on Monday actually, about the 60th March on Washington. I said most of our educators should have been speaking about the 60th March on Washington, because we know that not every child has learned about the March on Washington.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
That's
true.
a big topic. So this should have been a great conversation coming in on Monday. Hey, did you look and listen in? And the thoughts that my children had was, oh, over the weekend, I heard about they were marching for peace, justice, equity. And when I've heard some of those terms, I'm like, I love this language, because they are enriched in their culture. They're enriched in the current news as well.
Oh, wow.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sybil, please.
I was just going to say that, and as I shared with the guys before you came on, Mr. Jackson, I didn't have any Black male teachers growing up. I didn't have any Black teachers after the third grade and after at Morgan Park Academy, because they just didn't have any. But I did have that in my family. We had principals, we had teachers, we had all people who participated in the Chicago public school system in our family. And so I was exposed to it that way and knew the value of having a strong Black man as the principal of Fernwood School, as my cousin was, George Turk, may he rest in peace. Or, and I've told people that I grew up in the system because my mom was a Chicago public school teacher. So I had that. But there's so many people who did not. And I think that the fact that you were there and being an example to young Black men, there's a place for you here in our school system, in the lives of our children. And I'm not saying anything against this, but not just as a coach, because coaching is an important part, and being a part of teams, that's an important part of life. But seeing them in the classroom and explaining things and getting down and talking to them eye to eye and exposing them to your life and your genius, as well as that around them, is really important. Was it difficult for you to come to that place or was it an easy decision for you to become a teacher and what that would bring?
Personally, it was a easy decision, because I knew as a child that I wanted to become a teacher. I knew that I valued the education system. That was one thing. And I knew, as they say, education opens up a door for many opportunities. And I knew that education was something that I valued within my family, because I looked at some of my family members who were college graduates, and I knew that it opened up a different door for them. I knew I did not want to be someone known in my neighborhood where my family poured so much into me, and I would lose their respect in doing things that they did not raise me to do. I'll say it like that. I knew what my family raised me to do. And I had some people who were saying, oh, you know what? There's not male educators, and you shouldn't go into it. Yeah, I had lots of that in my ear, but I knew what God had provided for me in my life. And that's where I decided I could be determined and be an educator.
Did you have a light bulb moment?
Yes.
As Oprah would call it?
There was a light bulb moment. And actually, I was thinking about going to culinary school when I was a child, because my grandfather had been a chef. My dad had owned a restaurant when I was a child. And I actually valued cooking. That was one thing. And I would value sitting at the table. I value learning about different food and cultures of food. So culinary got a little tough, where people said, hey, can you cook this? Can you cook this? And I'm like, really? This is for you and not for me. And I started doing things, food makes people happy. I started doing things for people and not valuing it just myself. And I realized that was not the calling or the light bulb moment that I wanted to have in my life at that time.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, are you married or single?
I'm single, my brother.
Yeah, so, I mean, because if you teaching the kids and you can cook, we might.
Oh, yeah.
Out there.
We can set up a whole nother show for you.
Yeah,
You know what?
you need to be the next bachelor.
Hey, Damon, if you in these comments, I'm in these comments. I was about to do a public service announcement for them too. I think another thing that's very important is how do you deal with mothers? Are they aggressive?
Is it anything like Abbott Elementary?
Let me tell you right now,
Daniel,
I got the reality of it. I got some parents that have tried to make some bad choices, and I have to let them know at the end of the day, I'm a professional. This is my job. I value my job. You should value me as an educator teaching your child. So,
right. So come out of that broom closet, Mrs. Jenkins.
Right. Stay out of my DMs, Mrs. Jenkins.
And that's what it was. As I told Cam earlier, I'm like, hold on, social media, sharing social media sometimes is hard because we have lots of parents who follow you on social media. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep it myself personal on those platforms. And when those parents are following, they observe everything. Even when I remember one kid came up to me over the summer and he said, "You had a great experience on the boat this summer." I said, "How do you know about that?" Well, my mom showed me pictures when he was in Greece. I said, "Oh." Wow.
This is no lie. There's no lie. When my son, whenever he goes to a new class and a new teacher, we look him up. We look up the teacher. Like after I've looked it up the first time and like scanned through and make sure that you look. No, like one time we had we saw a teacher and her husband had some the blue, like they had the police flag and we backed the blue and stuff like that. I was just like, I was like, I don't know about this. But it's like because of social media, we're so connected to teachers now. It's like find them on social media. Boom. Okay, now we got them up. But I'm telling you, the teacher who had to protect back the blue, all of a sudden her stuff became private once school started. Mm-hmm. Once school started, all her stuff became private. And I'm just like, yeah, you can't do that. So what is that like being a teacher now in the social media era where everybody has access to you? You have access to the parents immediately, and parents have access to you, it feels like all the time.
And your summer vacations.
And your summer vacations, man.
It's definitely difficult because although I am a educator and you would think that people don't watch you, but we're everywhere. Being an educator, you are legit like a public official at times because the community has a respect for you and they want to uphold you to some values where they can't even see themselves in, but they will hold you to them. And I have to let them know, well, I am a person. I am an educator, and I wouldn't put anything such inappropriate online or on social media, but I am still a person. I'm a human, just like you are. So you can't judge me for what I may do on social media.
Well, you're doing something right. You're doing something right. You're a Golden Apple Award winner. That speaks very highly of your skills and what your peers think about you, right?
That is very true. And I've learned even in high school with high school etiquette, you had to learn how to keep up with your social media. That was one thing because you did not want to have people to look at you in the future in a bad manner. That was one thing. Yeah. So from high school and on, I've learned that I had to say certain things on social media. And even as of now, I do not post certain things because I want to make sure that this is who the world needs to see me as.
Right.
And what I do in private, that's my business. And I would not allow the public to see certain things.
So no OnlyFans page, then we can strike that out. That's not going to be.
I have an idea for you on OnlyFans. It can work.
No such thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we were coming up, you would freak out if you even saw your teacher after school,
Right.
like in a grocery store, or like
It was the weirdest
like they didn't
experience.
have another life besides being the teacher. So I know that's got to be a crazy balance. But using social media, like with these restrictive policies that the other states are using, like for Black and Black history, do you think that it's still a good thing because kids have access to so much out in the world when it comes to, let's say you can't teach particular topics, but you can tell the kids, but you can look it up on your own and steer them in that way? Is that a tool that you can find useful?
I would say there are many pros and cons of social media. Parents should always censor what their child is watching. I typically censor all the children who I'm around. I observe the history because I want to know what are they looking at. And I believe that all parents should be in the know of what their child is doing. Your child should not be on social media at 10 o'clock at night. They should be in bed for class because I'm going to greet them at 8:30 in the morning. So I think that social media could be a positive outlet for children where they can learn about each other and learn about what other children in other countries are doing. Even as they say, we like to YouTube, just watch kids eat food and things like that. Okay, you can do things like that. You can watch other children play video games, but when it becomes a little explicit or violent, we don't want our children exposed to those things. We want to censor as much as we can because we want to make sure that our children still have a youthful mind. That's where we're protecting our children. It's not being so, we'll say, rigid, but we want to serve our children. Our parents did not do certain things. Just like you've learned that your parents shouldn't argue in front of the children. You shouldn't have your children watching children or people argue online. There's certain things and mannerisms that children need to know. And in order for them to be better people, they must be taught these things.
Wow. You're an amazing young man. And I'm sorry we don't have more time, but I would like to invite you to come back and continue the discussion with us about the state of education and where we are. Because I really, really do appreciate the things that you've shared with us. You want to give a shout out to your class?
Yes, I would give a first shout out to Chicago Public Schools as an employee of Chicago Public Schools. Then I'll give a shout out to Dixon Elementary, and then to Mr. Jackson's and Tie Tuesday, because today is our known Tie Tuesday. We giving a shout out to Room 206, Mr. Jackson University.
Mr. Jackson University. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So you could come back on the show on spring break and you could be your wild self because it's only adults.
They still watching.
Right.
You're trying to get me in trouble.
Thank you so much, Daniel Jackson.
Right.
We really appreciate it, and good luck and have a great school year.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Good job, Khameron. That was really good.
Great guess.
I really appreciate that, and I just love to see young people making their voices, their minds, all of their tools, and taking them and using it for the betterment of our
also, Khameron, while I'm thinking about this, I want to extend a stress release invitation. If you can get some of your educators together that are going through some things, and we can do like a periodic night for the teachers. At Riddles,
that would be so great.
Yeah, let's pull that off once a quarter.
Cool.
That's nice. That's a great job.
Yeah, like after report card pickup.
Yeah.
Or open house. Yeah. Parent teacher nights. Yeah.
Seriously, let's do that.
Thank you, Damon. Yeah.
So we're now moving to trending. And speaking of comedy, Damon, tell us about what you have coming up.
Well, first of all, I need everyone in the sound of our voices to log on to Netflix and stream All the Queen's Men, the special, and hit the tap the thumbs up. It's not just for us to get the notoriety, but it's also to help them realize that we have a viable audience and other opportunities will come for other comedians. So that's always been my desire once I get in to bring others with me. And then this weekend, I'm with the man himself, Frankie Beverly, at the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond. So and it's almost sold out, but we're gonna go and sing all the songs for him, and hope he can keep up with his voice. But we definitely gonna put on our white and kick it with Frankie this weekend.
That's great. That's really great. Okay. And All the Kings, some more presents All the Queen's
All the
Men.
Queen's Men.
All the
Yeah.
Queen's Men, and that is on Netflix. So please check it out.
Yes.
Damon is first up, but all the others do deserve your time, and
Absolutely.
it will be a lot of laughs there. I promise you. So
Yeah.
good deal.
Tonight I'm in the Bronx at Sasa Con Fuego with
Oh, is that Rob?
Rob Stapleton. Yeah, and Touré from the special is here, along with a brother named Henry Coleman, who is super outrageous. He was at Riddles a couple of weeks ago. He's raw, but he's really funny, really brilliant.
Awesome.
Can I ask Damon a question about comedy?
Sure.
Can I ask Damon, because I saw All the Queen's Men, and excellent job as always, but especially between like you and Tony Schofield, who I know personally, and I've seen work so much. How do you guys, especially if you have a joke that you know is a killer, how do you keep that joke within your material but keep it spiced up? Like what's your mindset when it comes to that? Because I was watching Tony said, I'm like, I know about 4 of these jokes, but he changed it up a little bit and it's still hitting. I've always wanted to know that. I never asked.
A joke takes on a life of its own, and there are nuances that grow as you do it over and over. But then once it hits a special like that and it's seen widely, it's kind of like retiring it. So those jokes basically are from 2019, and most of them I don't even do anymore because they've traveled the country a lot. But then it's also unfair to people that haven't seen them, so you pull them back out. But usually a joke will start somewhere and it'll take on a life of its own and become even a totally different thing. So that's how that happens.
Gotcha.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Keeping it fresh. That's cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Speaking of fresh, we have news of events that are going on as we speak. Hurricane Idalia bearing down on Florida. It has strengthened to a Category 2 hurricane as of this afternoon and forecast to intensify quickly into an extremely dangerous major hurricane before making landfall over Florida's Gulf Coast tomorrow morning. That, according to the National Hurricane Center, the path is expected to affect a wide central portion of the state, including cities such as Tampa and Orlando, before moving along. And you can see it as it's moving across the state of Florida and up to Georgia and South Carolina before they predict that it will go back out into the Atlantic. It's expected to make landfall, as I said, the Gulf Coast early tomorrow morning, likely centered in the Big Bend area. Hurricane conditions extending along the coast. And because of the heat of the water, that really makes it stronger and pumps it up. And it's not so much the hurricane hitting, but it's the water surges that follow, right? And people don't seem to be taking it very seriously. It's angering a lot of officials in Florida because we've been through this before. We know what to do. Right. And they're saying this is a hurricane, and you saw what happened in Lee County last year. In my old stomping grounds in Fort Myers, you saw when this came in and how it just decimated, and people are still feeling the effects of this hurricane. And the same thing, if not worse, can happen with Idalia. So
the temperature of the oceans, which has increased drastically, is really raising the intensity of these storms. So you hunkered down in the previous years, but this is a different thing. So people should really take heed to some of these warnings and not be caught up if they can possibly find shelter or move elsewhere.
Right. Yes, sir.
And shout out to Tyrone Bourne, who's watching right now, and he said he's listening to us, watching us, and he is hunkering down right now. So prayers with you and your family, Tyrone. Get through it, baby.
And where's Tyrone? What social media site is he on?
He's on Facebook right now.
On Facebook. Well, hang in there, Tyrone. And if possible, we'd love to hear from you after the storm has passed over tomorrow, and like to hear from you and praying for that you and your family make it through this storm unscathed.
And then after the storm, go over to your boy's house and help him get his.
That's scattered everywhere, right? Yeah.
The ones that didn't listen.
Right. There are a lot of people that say, I got enough gas in the car, and now you're seeing gas stations with the bags over the pumps. They're run out of gas, and you may only be able to pay for the premium, but put gas in your car. Stock up on batteries, and make sure you have your radios. And let's go old-fashioned AM radios, because a lot of these, when all else fails, you go to your radio for information if you need it. And I do say that as a fan of radio.
Yes. Terrestrial radio.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As the storm has intensified, meteorologists are warning that she is expected to bring life-threatening storm surges, as we mentioned, and hurricane conditions to parts of the Gulf Coast by tonight, continuing into tomorrow. As of 5 o'clock Eastern Time, Idalia was located approximately 195 miles southwest of Tampa, 300 miles south of Tallahassee, and the storm was moving north at 16 miles an hour and had a maximum sustained winds of 100 miles an hour, and it must have maximum sustained winds of at least 74 miles an hour for it to be classified as a Category 1. It's now a 2, and it's expected to gain even more strength as it gets over that warmer and warmer water. So please be careful. And Tyrone, sending prayers to you for a successful outcome, but please let us know tomorrow how things are looking for you. This was another crazy story that we talked about yesterday. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill was shut down after a shot was heard. They did confirm that a professor had been shot. They did not give out much information until later on regarding the student as well as the teacher. Both of them were Asian, if that means anything to you. But the student shot the professor, according to police. That is their assumption. And the faculty member and the student, whose name is Tylee Key, was charged with first-degree murder and possession of a weapon on an educational property. Those are both felonies. Authorities identified the victim as Ziji Yan, an associate professor in the Department of Applied Physical Sciences, and Key is listed as a graduate student in Yan's research group. So obviously there were some issues there between the men. He's being held without bail at the local county jail, and faces possible additional charges as the investigation continues. This is what I want to talk about. And this is something that I proposed to Yolanda, that we find people who can give us advice on how to handle yourself in situations like this. Because what I saw on the news was young people climbing out of the windows of the lab building to jump out from not the first floor, but floors up in the building to safety. Kids who were, hunkered down in the bathrooms, and those that knew from previous indoctrinations in the classroom, where to line up against the wall, away from the doors, away from the windows. Well, where does that leave you? If you think about it, so that they can't see you, the shooter cannot see you. But there are places and there are things that are going on, even in terms of a hurricane. Do people know to go into the most interior room in your home, no windows, and get in the bathtub? So we need to help prepare people for how to face these things that are going on around us, whether it's a mad shooter or the weather's related or whatever it is. We need to talk about it.
It's crazy because my son 8 years old, has come home. He goes, we practiced if somebody were coming and shoot the school. I'm like, oh, you did that today? He's like, yeah. So we got behind, and he was telling me what they did to make sure they were safe and things like that. And we're in a situation now where we were actually dropping my son off at school, and while we were in line to drop him off at school, we get an alert saying the school's in lockdown. I'm like, wait, what? Like the school was in partial lockdown, and not because it was going inside the school, because of the police presence around the school. Somebody had gotten loose around the school, so the school was in partial lockdown while we were dropping the kids off. And it was like she was like, "Do we drop them off?" I'm like, "Well, this is probably the safest place to be right now, is in the school with everybody not letting anybody else in." So, we dropped them off, and they just kept us updated all day. But you hear about these kids, these students and these teachers having to deal with this and having to practice this. And at these schools, we know the aftermath of it. But once you're in it, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how bad it is. You don't know how many people have guns. And so the panic that comes into your head, because you're thinking about all the worst case scenarios. Yes, I'm going to jump out the window. Yes, if I think I can make it, let me get away from this building, because I don't know what is going on, because you're just locked in place. You're just waiting for the worst.
Well,
Cameron, do you all? I'm sorry, Damon. Cameron, do you all talk about this on your campus?
We do. Yeah, they have, in my opinion, like a hilarious training video for mass shootings.
What do you mean hilarious?
It is recorded as if it's like an episode of The Office. They show an enraged coworker taking vengeance upon their other coworkers, and the acting is so surreal. It's almost satirical. And so I'm watching this in my office, and I'm busting up laughing. People are like, "Oh, what's wrong with that guy?" And I'm like, this is like a caricature,
And now they're looking at you because this guy thought it was funny. He's not taking it seriously. Maybe we should take another look at Mr. Riley.
Yes.
Right. I'm sorry, Damon.
Well, not just mass shooting situations, but most households don't even have a fire escape plan.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to be more prepared in that way, with a fire extinguisher, with a possible rope ladder that you can get out of higher floors, which I think schools may, lower floor schools probably should have something to that effect as well. But, like you say, it's hindsight. Once it happens, you're like, oh, we should have had this or possibly had that. So we should at least encourage households to try to at least talk about what to do in certain emergencies. Like Earthquake was telling me, he and his lady, they practice what to do if they had a home intruder. One is supposed to activate the alarm. One is supposed to get the firearm, blah, blah, blah. He had all of these scenarios that he was prepared for as well. Me being a person who has had a home invasion once and had to fire a firearm at an intruder, understands that could happen to anyone, but you never expect it, but you should be prepared for it.
Right. I was thinking about this because I'm a car sitter. When I get someplace, sometimes I just sit in my car before I get out. And I was thinking about this woman who was the Uber driver. She was sitting in her car when the man came up and shot her at the Dollar General on Saturday. So this makes me rethink about where I'm going to sit. It doesn't have to be in the shade, although, that's where I aim for. But to have a look away, to have a view of the entirety of where I'm going into. It just makes you think about these things.
And use your mirrors. Even when you're driving, also be cognizant of this bump and Rob move they do where you have a small fender bender and they tap the back of your bumper and then they want you to get out to exchange information. It's things like that. It's a wicked, crazy world we live in, but you got to be on your square. And as you said earlier, have your head on that swivel.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
And last but not least, if you're being robbed or anything, give up your goods.
Right.
A young lady or young man just got murdered because he tried to flee. And then a young lady got shot because she didn't want to give up her items. She lived, but give up your material things. It's not worth it.
Right. It's not worth it. We should tell that to our kids about Jordans and what have you, but
everything.
Let it go. And don't be married to the things that you're required to give up.
Married to your life.
Okay. I'm being reminded that we need to move to entertainment, and this isn't entertainment related, but it is important. Journalists just want to report the story, not be the story, and this happened in Chicago. A TV news crew was robbed at gunpoint while reporting on robberies in the neighborhood. The Chicago television news crew reporting on a string of robberies ended up being robbed themselves as a part of their morning, what happened to them in the morning. And I believe it was the Univision television crew reporting on the robberies, and they were accosted at gunpoint by 3 armed men wearing ski masks. They said a reporter and the photographer were filming just before 5 a.m. Monday when they were accosted by the people there wanting all their things. And they said that they took their, robbed them of, they were brandishing firearms, and they robbed them of their television camera and other items, including IDs. And they were approached with guns and robbed. Mainly it was personal items, and they took the camera. And we know how expensive those TV cameras are.
I mean,
I
it's
don't
probably
know.
like geotagged or something.
That's the foolishness and the sensationalism of journalism these days. Just like when they go out in the storm to prove there's a storm, we get it. You don't have to be out in the storm to let us know it's a storm. You know what I mean? You don't have to go. They just robbed some people. It was 4 a.m. when they went out there to report on this story.
Right.
And the robbery was at 3:30. So the robbers are still at large.
You know they haven't been picked up.
So they spun back around.
They said,
Yeah.
oh, look, they're talking about us. Let us show them how we do it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they should be able to do that, but you don't have to go to the scene of the crime to report on a crime.
Right.
You know,
Before the cops get there.
Go outside the police department and say, you know, it can happen anywhere.
We're outside of headquarters. Something happened on Belmont. You know,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, I'm not going to the Middle East to report on beheadings. You know what I mean? I'm going to report that live from the south side of Chicago about the Middle East.
Right.
I'm not going over there.
Maybe with a good euro in your hand. I'm not sure how that works, but I understand. Is anybody watching the U.S. Open yet? I am. I'm excited. Coco and Francis Tiafoe both made it through the first rounds. Anybody watching?
Yeah, they're killing
Coco
it.
was tense.
Well, she was tense because that little girl would not play fair. She was taking her time, and it's like, come on, hit the damn ball.
Coco was upset. Coco was like, nah, we ain't doing this no more. She was upset. And then the girl from Germany, I forgot her name, the girl from Germany, she was upset too. She's like, I play like this. This is how I play. Don't be penalizing me for the way I play.
This is not how we play here. It's New York. We go
Sybil
fast.
was in it.
Her name is Sigmund.
Sigmund. Yeah. She was upset.
And the first lady had to kind of calm her down after, she was excited that the former first lady and the former president, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, were there. But the first lady's like, just maintain your cool. Just, you're good. Cool. And
when they go low, we go high.
Right. And sometimes we go high and just slam that ball. Get her off the court, messing up my mindset. Okay, all right. So
when are the next matches?
Today.
Probably tomorrow,
last
wouldn't it?
night,
Or
so probably tomorrow. I think they've run through the first round, and I think tomorrow, Damon. But I'll check and confirm that. All right, guys, it's been a great show. Khameron, once again, great guest. To appreciate meeting Teacher Jackson, Mr. Jackson, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Let us close out with Yogi's Jewel, our daily inspiration. Showing gratitude is not too much to ask when someone has been nice to you. You all have been very kind and very nice to me, so I say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and being here with all of us today. We appreciate you showing gratitude. And we'll see you all again soon. There we go.